Last night I had the pleasure of watching Tenet in a cinema, the first movie I saw in cinema after 6 months, and it was pretty great experience. Those 2.5 hours flew like nothing, and it was so great to be in cinema again. But after the movie was finished, I realized that Tenet has a lot to unpack, both good and bad, that it definitely deserves more than one video, and in this video I'll just talk about my thoughts, no spoilers, basically the review, and the second video will probably be the analysis of the film. And when I talk about the film, I like to start with the positives, and I think that first positive for this film are the performances. All the actors did a good job. The exceptional performance for me was by Robert Pattinson. He was by far the most charismatic character on the screen, and he brought this certain charm to this character that wouldn't be there otherwise. David Washington did a good job as the protagonist of the film. We really don't know much about him, and in a way, he's pretty standard protagonist. I don't think he's very special, and Nolan can really sometimes pull off very interesting main characters. And here it was your standard hero, but nevertheless, I think Washington did a good job. Kenneth Branagh is another interesting performance. He plays basically a stereotypical crazy Russian, and he did pretty good job. Like the script was like wanting him to go crazy, and he truly went there. So yeah, he did a pretty good job. But when we are talking about the non-film, the thing that we are all interested in is that crazy idea that he's trying to pull off, and did he manage to do it? And before saying like did he do it or not, I just want to say that this is by far his craziest idea yet. Like Inception's Layers of Dream, it was very hard to do and very complicated, but this thing is like even more complicated than that, and it was very hard to do, and I think he did a pretty good job. Like this inversion, this thing that is playing with time in this movie, it is so crazy, and the way he just creates the scenes around that thing, it was very interesting to see, and that is taking me to the visuals of the film, which are just incredible. Like you really see where those $250 million went, because this movie shows you the things that you would never believe that you will see in film ever, like car chases where the cars go both backwards and forward in time, and just this final fight scene at the end of the film. It is just so many things happening on the screen, and you applaud Nolan for how ambitious he is with his films. And it is always nice to see that there is a director in Hollywood with this much freedom for these high budget movies, and at this point you really feel like Nolan is treating film sets like his playground, and it is glorious to see. But sadly, this is where the positives of the film end, and now we are getting into the negatives. First thing I want to talk about is the music. Score is not made by Hans Zimmer this time. This time the score was done by Ludwig Göransson. I probably butchered that, so sorry. The score is not as good as the Zimmer score, but I think it was pretty good. But the problem is it was overused in the film. The scenes that weren't supposed to be tense had this like enormous like tense score, and it really didn't work for film. Also, like in one specific emotional scene, the dialogue is not as compelling, but there is this loud emotional melodramatic music behind it. It is really trying to force emotions, and it doesn't work. But my biggest problem with the film is honestly like with its characters and the dialogue that Nolan created around them and his exposition in this film. And I'll first start talking about the characters. There is no other way to say it. This is by far Nolan's weakest film when it comes to writing, and the characters are not interesting. And it has a lot to do with the subplot involving Elizabeth Debicki's and Kenneth Branagh's characters, and that whole subplot was so uninteresting for me. Not even a second of it was engaging, and anytime the movie was switching from action and this concept of inversion to that, I felt simply bored. It was the story that I seen thousands times already, done in a way that was nothing special for me, and the dialogue was simply bad. Like the conversations between characters in this film, it didn't work for me at all. And finally, we must talk about the exposition in this film. This film obviously has this crazy idea, and there is a lot of explaining in this film. And Nolan has kind of got already a bad name for his exposition in his previous films, specifically Inception. And I don't agree at all, because in Inception, while people were talking about something, it was also shown by Nolan in the film, like the buildings moving and the rules of the film shown through the visuals as well as the dialogue. But in this film, there was only just the lectures, like the people talking and talking, and if you like skipped half a minute of the dialogue in this film, you wouldn't understand nothing, and that is a pretty bad thing. It would be much better if the dialogue and the visuals would go together when the characters are explaining something, but no one simply didn't do it in this film. So in a lot of cases in this film, the explanation felt like you're in some class and no one is the teacher. So yeah, that is what I have to say about Tenet. And at the end, how I feel about the film, I think that without Nolan magic, this film would be mediocre and maybe even bad. But when you see how much ambition was put in the film, how much thought and ideas, you must admire what you're seeing on the screen. And if you want a score, I think it is like between 6 and 7 out of 10. As I said, it would be mediocre, but Nolan just adds some of his magic and it works. So yeah, next video will probably be analysis of the film. And then after that, ranking of Nolan films, I think. So I hope you're doing well, and till then, bye.